And welcome back to another Inside Texas Live Around the League segment. We've got a new face up here on the top right. This is Mr. Eli Hoff. We're still working on getting our names on screen, but it is Mr. Eli Hoff covering the Missouri Tigers, doing a lot of good work there. Bottom right, welcome back Travis J. Davidson. Bottom left, my guy John Smith, recently promoted to my not sharing the co-title anymore. He is now my favorite Georgia Bulldog. But gentlemen, how are we doing? Everybody having a good one?
Great.
Fantastic. Could not be better. Y'all, this is what a time to be alive in college football. You got Bill Belichick, drama. You got amazing games every weekend. You got all kinds of stuff going on. I could not be better.
Yeah, you got fun. Go ahead.
You got 3 ranked teams represented. It's a heck of a panel. Just big week, lots of news. So for sure, happy we could all get together.
How about you, Eli? Welcome to the channel. How you doing, bub?
This is great. This has been a heck of a college football season already. Every week I feel like I know less than I did the week before, which isn't how this is supposed to work, but it's kind of how it's been playing out. So I'm having fun every Saturday.
Yeah, sometimes I'm just sitting here like I thought I knew so much about so many teams and scratching my head. Real quick, guys, hop on over to Inside Texas. Go ahead and subscribe for your number one place for in-depth analysis, recruiting groups, game planning. We got it all, X's and O's content. Obviously, you got shows Monday through Sunday on here on YouTube, but go check out the forums over on InsideTexas.com. Have fun over there. There's a lot of banter. The game day threads, as you three, I'm sure can imagine, are really, really interesting, especially right now, but a lot of fun, I promise you. Let's get to it, gentlemen. I don't think any of us planned the blackout that we're currently representing right here. Travis, I'm assuming that you're not just a floating head, that you have some black on underneath there. My guy, there he is.
I was going with the old Death Row Records on the cover of the Source, right? I'm going after that vibe.
I love it. I've worn black on every show that I've done this week with the mindset in my head. No, we're about to black out OU there on Saturday. But first, before we get to the big weekend that's coming, we are going to recap a couple of games. One of them, unfortunately, from the last weekend of SEC play. We'll hop right into it. I'm sure that, a couple of you at least enjoyed what happened at the Swamp with Texas and Florida. I'm going to give you my personal thoughts. I would love for y'all to piggyback off of that. I did think it was kind of funny that everybody wrote Florida off as completely dead, that they had, that they were not going to fight, that the defense maybe I don't think the defense was getting the credit that they deserved. Now, obviously, I can sit there and say this because they just beat my team, and it's not coping. I think Florida deserves a hair bit more credit than they're getting, and it's more than just, Texas absolutely stinks. I don't think that is the case. It's Florida, obviously, what they wanted or what they thought they could be in the beginning of the season? Maybe not. But again, if you put our schedule with their schedule to start the year, there's a chance Texas also went 1-3. But let's talk about Arch for a minute. Obviously, we saw the New York Times article yesterday. We've seen a lot of different. We're on Twitter all the time. I know that Eli, us other three, we're on Twitter often. And so
I am too. Don't worry.
There you go. Good. And so we see all the comments, the good and bad. We all have the fans, the couch coaches, the Twitter coaches. The Twitter OCs, I like to call them, but. There's a lot of talk about Arch Manning. I personally thought Arch Manning played better than anybody else on that Texas offense on Saturday. I thought that maybe outside of a couple of receivers, but I was honestly proud and happy for the way that Arch kind of grew up, in my opinion, there, getting rattled on every single, every single snap. It felt like the guy's on the ground. He has got teammates picking him up. But curious about y'all's opinion, because obviously I cover Texas and I love Arch Manning. Again, not one of the truthers. I've called out his bad play, but I think it's a pretty positive trend line from Sam Houston State, and then actually doing it against a pretty good defense. A couple of late mistakes, yes. But Travis, it's Texas OU week. You go first.
I will go first, just like OU should in that name. OU Texas week, indeed. Happy to be here. The season goes quickly already. Blink and you're to OU Texas. Feels like we just got this thing started. So, with that game specifically, obviously we were watching it as our game was wrapping up there in Norman. And we started our post-game show at O'Connell's a couple minutes late because we were waiting for your game to wrap up. So we didn't have to, stop our intros as the ball fell. Was it a pick? Was it not a pick? All that kind of stuff. But my thing is, Arch Manning, he's been in the program 3 years. Like, he's a perfect recruit when you look at the rankings. He's got the, the pedigree, the all this, that, and the other. I'm wondering how, you say you saw him grow up a bit. I don't know how many more of these games he will grow up to where he's not throwing the multiple picks, or he's not, missing receivers down the field. Or I think Texas fans got used to, hey, he's a runner. Well, he's just a better runner than Quinn Ewers. He's not a runner. He's a good runner, but he's not like dual threat guy all of a sudden. Oklahoma and Texas are both struggling right now with their running back situation. So I totally commiserate with you on that. But with Florida, I mean, as long as DJ Lagway keeps throwing it to his guys, they're pretty good. But the problem is he doesn't often throw it to his guys, right? LSU obviously famously had the 5 picks. South Florida, he had a bad pick, ended up costing him. So if DJ Lagway can throw it to his people, Florida's a tough out. But we also see this with Florida often, right? We saw this last year when they had back-to-back ranked wins, late in the year. That was obviously November, wasn't as early in the year. But, they pull off a couple games where you're like, man, it's kind of like birdieing 17 and 18. You're like, man, I played poorly the first 16 holes, but, man, I think I'm going to make a tee time on my way out. I'm going to stop by the pro shop because, man, I think I figured out that little hitch in my swing. I think I figured it out. I feel like that's what Florida is in a constant state of with Billy Napier. Oh, they figured it out. Run the ball, get after the opposing quarterback, and don't turn the ball over. Pretty good path to success. So, I think they exposed Texas's offensive line a little bit more than it's been exposed up to this point. So that's what I'm looking for as we go into the game this week. But I know we're going to talk about that game in a minute.
How about Eli, John? Whoever wants to take that. What were your thoughts on I guess Arch's performance on Saturday mostly, and then what do you think of Florida? What do you think of Texas?
Yeah, I mean, I do think I do think Arch Manning he didn't play as poorly as a stat line shows, and as I think people are necessarily piling on to him. I think when you talk about whether he grew up or what kind of improvement he's made from week to week, I think that's still TBD, right? I think Texas in general, much like we'll talk about this when we talk about Georgia. I feel the same way, and Georgia's 4-1 and just beat Kentucky 35-14. But I feel like there's still a lot of questions to be answered about Georgia. There's a lot of questions to be answered about Texas. Florida, I totally agree with Travis. I mean, Florida is Georgia's biggest top 2 rival, depending on where you come from in your Georgia fandom. And Florida has been this way. They were this way under Dan Mullen. They were this way under Jim McElwain. It always feels like there is this there's a game or a stretch where it feels like, we figured it out. And so that's TBD. In terms of Texas, I think there's still a lot of questions to be answered. What I liked about Arch Manning is I felt like Arch Manning actually just played ball. Like it felt like it wasn't perfect. He was under pressure, like he was running for his life a lot of times, 6 sacks, but the guy was just playing ball. Like he was actually trying to just play ball. And I didn't feel that way versus Ohio State. I'll just say it that way. I feel like that has been a leap where it's like, hey, I'll use all the strengths, I'll use everything that I have at my disposal to try to win this football game. And it didn't work out for Texas, but I do think in that regard, I think Arch actually grew up. And I think this week will be, a huge test. You saw what Oklahoma did to Auburn with 10 sacks. I mean, I think that Texas offensive line, I think 2 things have to happen. And I know we'll talk about this game specifically in a second, but 2 things have to happen. I think Steve Sarkisian and that coaching staff is going to have to figure out, they're going to have to make some decisions. Like, are you going to do some real design runs for Arch and try to actually make Oklahoma play, respect that a little bit more and not, kind of get upfield and let him get underneath you? Or are you going to actually try to trust that offensive line? And we'll see what happens. But these are the kind of losses that this loss, I think, feels worse because of the Ohio State loss and because of how Florida has played. But I think it's kind of lost in the SEC that you can't, if you don't let this loss turn into another loss, if you don't let Florida beat you twice and you turn around and lose to Oklahoma, then I think, it's not necessarily the end of the world.
I will say this: before the season began, I did say that Florida would be a more difficult game for Texas, and we did. Technically lost by more. So, I mean, am I shitty for feeling right in that spot? Maybe, but I thought Florida game was going to be pretty difficult. What do you got, Eli?
Yeah, I mean, Florida's a tough out in the swamp, and again, you look at what Billy Napier did at the end of last season, preserving his job and getting a lot of us thinking that, hey, Florida might have found a fix going into this year. Like it's not easy to go down there and do that. My thing with Arch, as we're doing the great Arch Manning reset of what we think of him, I wonder what he can be behind this offensive line if it stays like this all year. We spent all offseason thinking, hey, this kid is Superman. And I think the way this offensive line is set up, it needs him to be Superman. You're right. He looked a little better. I think that throw on the Wingo touchdown was great. That's what you need to be able to do against that offensive line. Just contort your body, find the space to get that throw off. And it was a laser, right? He deserves credit for that. That's something that, for better or for worse, he's going to figure out and get better at as the season goes. But I still think that the O-line situation by itself puts a little bit of a ceiling on what he can be for the rest of this year. And I don't know, maybe that ceiling is still pretty high and he can figure it out. But to me, it's just asking him to do too much. There aren't many college quarterbacks in football who can manage that kind of a line situation, that kind of repeated pressure, and still look decent. So you look at this Oklahoma front, and so we'll see. But so yeah, a step forward for him. But I still am just long term concerned about the situation and what he's going to be able to do.
And that's one thing that I'll give you big credit on, Eli. And obviously, y'all all touched on it a little bit. And that's, I guess, slightly arguing with Travis, and we will get to the injury report in just a moment, guys. Good evening, Chris. Appreciate all you guys being in the comments and watching. Throw a quick like on the video. But Arch is going to have to play hero ball. He is going to have to be Superman at time, because the offensive line is what it is, and there will still be mistakes that are had, and people will dog on Arch and be like, yeah, this and that. Well, I mean, the missed Evan Mosley wide open touchdown on a double move. Maybe that's one of the two throws that people are kind of talking about. Not very many quarterbacks out there making that play. I don't care if you watch the way that play unfolded, the hit that he's taking as quickly as he's having to move up the pocket left and right. While I mean, it was bad. And again, I'm not coping. I'm not saying that y'all heard the way I talked about Arch Manning the first couple of weeks. If I think it's tough, I'm going to call it out. And I will say this, do I think he grew up? Absolutely. But does that mean that he goes out and repeats and has a really good performance against Oklahoma? Absolutely not, because the pressure is going to be there. That front is going to get to Arch Manning. He will have to throw on the move. He probably has to throw across his body. He's going to have to throw off his back foot, sometimes just to get passes off. I said all offseason, and I hate that I'm already having to concede this take, but the Texas's success would not be solely dependent upon Arch Manning. It seems like on the offensive side of the football, it's going to be solely dependent upon Arch Manning and this wide receiving core. Again, I think Texas needs to spread some teams out. I'm not saying completely punt the run game, but baby, we got him out there, and we're thinking about it. We got him on the sidelines trotting around, getting ready to take the field, because we can't run the football. Got to see how creative Texas is if they do switch up a couple of things on the offensive line for Oklahoma, because Travis will tell you, the team that runs the football better, I mean, traditionally wins that game. I think it's 20 out of the last 21 of the last 22, something along those lines. But overall, I was happy with the way Arch played. Was very, very troubled by the way that the offensive line performed. Again, at this point, it's kind of beating the dead horse to death, at least on our side, as we've talked about it here on Inside Texas all week long. And before we continue and go a little further, we're going to kind of tie together the Alabama Vanderbilt recap into the Alabama and Mizzou preview. But first, let's hear a word from our sponsor, David McClellan.
Big financial decisions don't have to feel overwhelming. There's someone who can guide you every step of the way. David McClellan is a fiduciary financial advisor with Forum Financial, and he's working closely with his clients as a true financial life coach, guiding every aspect of your financial journey with expertise and care. If his name sounds familiar, that's because David was a swimmer at Texas and a member of several national championship teams. Today, he channels that same championship mindset into helping people win with their finances. David specializes in financial planning, and he's contributed numerous articles to Kiplinger on the topic of retirement tax bombs. And right now, David is offering viewers a free intro consultation to assess your financial situation. Do not miss this chance to get personalized guidance from a trusted expert. To schedule your free consult, email David at dmcclellan@forumfinancial.com, or you can call him directly at 312-933-8823. The contact info is in the description.
All right, guys, hit up David when you need him. Real quick, we're going to throw the injury report up from that was just released and talk about that for just a moment. But let's see here. Throw it on screen. There she is. All right. There we go. So, I mean, it's kind of tough to read. I can't get it. Let's see if I can get it a little larger. But you see for Texas, C.J. Baxter, Travis, doubtful. I said the other day I didn't really think that we'd see C.J. Baxter if he was not playing versus Florida. Didn't think he'd be ready for this game. But probable Malik Muhammad, that's a big one. Parker Livingston, who took a nasty shot on a hell of a snag there in the swamp, I believe, in the second quarter. You did see him return to that game. He had some type of, compression brace on him. But that is big. Anything on your side, Travis, that you can read up there that's, noteworthy here? I think there's a couple names people are probably looking for.
Yeah, we'll start at the bottom or top left, if you will, but the bottom as far as percentage chance to play. All the outs, no surprises there. A few of the offensive linemen that are probably out for the season anyways. Doubtful, Logan Howland. He's our swing tackle. Hopefully you don't need him anyways, with Michael Fasusi and Derek Simmons being your starters. So all is good, theoretically, at least good there. And then questionable. I take this as a win for both Keontez Lewis and John Mateer. Keontez Lewis, of course, took the ugly spill into the brick wall. It's been there for like 75 years. We've never had a problem with it before. So I know that kind of went viral a little bit. But Keontez is apparently allergic to concussions because the Temple game, he got smoked in the face mask and was able to play the next game. And then this time he just Kool-Aid mans it through a brick wall, and he's questionable. So anyways, I think, him, especially with the way our offense is, it's been 4 pass catchers all year. It's been Keontez Lewis, it's been Deion Burks, Isaiah Satania, and then Jaron Kanik. So it's important to keep that rotation in. Obviously, you've got a guy like Giovanni Gibson that wants to join the show. Ivan Carrion, these guys want to get in there, Zion Kearney. But John Mateer, that's a win as far as I'm concerned. I expected it, actually. I was talking with Chris Plank earlier. Plank thought it would be doubtful and then moved to questionable, but I'm not sure he ever touches probable. I think Brent Venables is going to keep him in that questionable column all week. And I think that that's gamesmanship. It is what it is. I still think you see John Mateer play. I would have been a little bit more worried if he was doubtful, but questionable. I think if it comes down to pain tolerance and grip strength, I think you might see. I think you will see him starting the game.
I never would anticipate him being above questionable leading into it, and I don't think why would you do that? Why get it starts to tip your hand, because obviously if he is probable, he is going to play. Jesse, you got a beat Texas guy right down here on the bottom right. So there's some Oklahoma panel. We got Oklahoma representation on the panel. So come back Saturday night. We've got a lot more on the panel now. The big one, the couple big ones, but you don't see Quintravion Wiseman's name on that injury report. Again, he didn't necessarily set the house on fire as far as in terms of being productive as a rusher against Florida, but as a guy that has the most experience out of our backfield, a guy who had a very big game against Oklahoma last year, and he owned up to his game the other day, said he kind of just played a little bit too fast. So that would be a big coup to just get healthy Trey Wiseman back, because it did look like he might have kind of pulled up on something. He was kind of grimacing a touch after his late touchdown run. But yeah, Malik Muhammad, that is a very big name that I've had many people have had their eyes on for Texas this week. We saw what Texas kind of looked like without Malik Muhammad for the first time on the football field in a very long time. Weren't quite as sticky in man coverage. Again, DJ made some crazy throws, crazier after watching the All-22. And I was like, you know what? Okay. We weren't great in coverage, but still we got beat by a guy that, he was spinning. Got to give again. I wanted to give Florida credit, and I would love to give Florida a little more credit after this coming weekend, but we'll get to that one in a minute. All right, Eli, moment is yours. I think, between Texas and Oklahoma, I say it's the best rivalry in college football, the biggest. There's another pretty dang big game this weekend in the SEC. Columbia, Missouri, undefeated Tigers. In my opinion, you have the best back in Mr. Hardy. You have a young Perbula who looks really, really good. What are the vibes like in Columbia as y'all get ready to welcome the Crimson Tide, man?
Yeah, this is to say the least, this is a big one up here in Columbia. It's a situation where for the first time really ever, Mizzou feels like it has a real chance against Alabama, and not some this has to go a certain fluky kind of way to get it done. This is a Mizzou's offense has a legitimate path to racking up yards, to scoring points against Alabama here, and you've got a top 15 showdown coming to town. Like it's going to be a great atmosphere, even with the 11 a.m. kickoff that some folks here are not too happy with, but I think they'll be up and at them early enough to make it count. To me, I think I pitched this game as interesting. I don't think I need to sell it as interesting, but I will anyway. It's interesting on a couple different fronts. I think one big picture, we're going to learn a lot about both Alabama and Missouri here. Alabama is one of these teams where we thought we kind of got a read on them last year and what they were going to be under Kalen DeBoer, and that it was maybe second tier, but not what Alabama had been. Then they come out and lose to Florida State, and it's oh no, everybody's Googling what's his buyout and all this stuff, and like they figured it out, right? But are they top of the SEC figuring it out? Is this a middle of the pack? We still don't know that. Missouri is 5-0, but the two of those wins, the only two that really matter, are over Kansas and South Carolina. Doesn't count for a whole lot. So we're going to learn a lot about what this Missouri team is. And then I think in terms of on the field, this is going to be one of those types of games where you see these teams' strengths and weaknesses align in a way where they attack each other. Mizzou's a team that you mentioned about Hardy. Like this rushing attack for Mizzou is incredibly dynamic. It's Jamal Roberts, who's the secondary running back as well. Bo Perbula can use his legs. Mizzou wants to run the ball. That's the soft spot with Alabama. Meanwhile, you look at the Tide, and of course it's Bertrand and Williams and Ty Simpson's looking fantastic, looked great against some of the zone that Vandy was throwing out there. In Mizzou secondary, not good so far. Needs to really step up there. So that's something where just again how those things come together, I think, is going to be interesting, because both teams are going to be able to do what they want to do when they have the ball. Maybe it comes down to it's a shootout and whoever has the ball last. I don't know, but I do think it's going to be really exciting because of that.
I mean, it should be, man. I like you just said, there's a legitimate path to victory for that offense. They can move the football. We've seen Alabama be susceptible to giving up chunks on the run. You give up a big play to Vandy. Georgia got them on the ground a little bit. Obviously saw what Florida State did to him on the ground. Definitely agree with you about Ty Simpson. I mean, he looks, not being a game manager, but he's not really having to do anything too crazy. He's putting the ball where he needs to be. Their ground attack, it's a little bit inconsistent, but they're still going to run the football. I think that Kalen DeBoer and Grubb are really, really good at dialing up man beaters. And then when you have Ty Simpson, who is in there, dotting zones up the way that he was, that offense, it's going to be tough, and it's only going to get better, in my opinion. And I think they've done a really good job of not panicking and overreacting to that overseason loss the way that many, many fans did. John, you're well versed in Alabama football. Who do you have in this one, and tell us why?
I think so. This feels like the kind of game that all the buildup is going to be around Mizzou's offense, and this, you got Alabama and Columbia, and it's Mizzou's time and Eli's time, and it feels like the kind of game that all that buildup happens, and then at 11 a.m. Central Time, Alabama rolls in and is still Bama, right? I think that's bullshit. I think Mizzou is going to beat Alabama. I watched Alabama play Georgia in a game, Georgia with a 33-game home win streak going back to 2019, and Georgia makes 3 plays in that game, and Georgia wins by 2 touchdowns. I mean, that's like it legitimately was. You had a freshman drop a wide open touchdown pass. You had a 4th and 1 where a true freshman on the right side of the line got blown up, or else Cash Jones walks into the end zone. And then you have a fumble, in your own red zone by Nate Frazier, and gives Alabama, starting field position inside the 15. And so if Mizzou can avoid turning the ball over and can avoid those mistakes, I think Mizzou will win a very close football game. But I think Mizzou does a couple of things that Georgia has been unable to do this year. They get pressure on the quarterback, which I think is huge. Ty Simpson was 1 for 5 when he was under pressure. Georgia, 5 freaking times we got pressure on him. But he was 1 for 5 for 10 yards under pressure, and then he was 100 for 100 for 1,000 yards when Georgia didn't pressure him. But I think the Mizzou has as enough of a pass rush they can get pressure. And then I think the quarterback for Mizzou, I think Bo Prabila is just going to take care of the football. I think if you do those two things, I think Mizzou absolutely has an opportunity. Yeah, and to Chris's point in the comments, Mizzou has to make Alabama anonymous. Like, you can't look at the logo on the jersey. You can't look at the number on the side of the helmet. You just got to come out and play football, and I think Mizzou can win the game.
I'm with you. What about you, Trev?
I'm one of the rare ones, I think, that was not jumping on the fire DeBoer train, especially when he got Grubb back. I think he's finally got his quarterback. I mean, last year I know we beat the crap out of him in Norman, but like Jalen Milroe was not his guy. I think he's proven that he's got his guy now. I think they've faced great competition. Obviously, they really stumbled to Florida State, but now that Ty Simpson's dialed in, he's been incredible on third down, just diagnosing what defenses want to do, just super efficient. I mean, in that Georgia game, I think he started, 6 for 6 on third down or something like that. Mm-hmm. It was something crazy. And if you can go into Georgia and do that, whether they, who made mistakes to win the game or who didn't make mistakes, of course, you could say that about a lot of games. But watching him do that against a Georgia team that's got dogs everywhere, and that's not just, a pun intended, I suppose. But I think Alabama has come out with such a, hey, we need to do whatever we can to wipe that stain off our week one. We heard the Powerball interviews in Alabama saying, if I win, I'm buying out Kalen DeBoer. That's what I'm going to do with my winnings. Like, they heard all that. Like, I think that Ty Simpson is feeling himself right now. I think that wins at Georgia and then just dismantling Vanderbilt. I mean, Vanderbilt, that was a sexy pick going into this game. Everybody, Diego Pavia, everybody's favorite player, right? Johnny Football on the sidelines in a Diego Pavia jersey, all this, that, and the other. And Bama, 16-point win. I think they had 9 more first downs. I think they outrushed them. They outpassed them. They had less penalties. They had less turnovers. It was just a thorough whipping. And while I do think Missouri's start's been impressive, I think there's a reason the AP poll's a bit hesitant to give them respect that their record, should demand, right? There's a bunch of one-loss teams ahead of them. And I think Alabama wins this game, but it is not my lack of belief in Mizzou. It is just my belief in Alabama right now. I think they're playing maybe the best ball in the country right now. Miami obviously has an argument for that. Quite certainly, but I think Alabama, Oregon, Miami, pretty much, I'm going to pick them against anybody right now. So this week it's just Missouri that it seems like I'm being a hater on, but it's not.
Confidence in the Tide. Do you think that number is something that Bama gets over the 3.5? Or
I think they win by a touchdown. I think that both of these offenses are going to eat. I think that Alabama is just. I think they're just more talented on offense. I think Missouri has been running through, like you said, Kansas, South Carolina team that was trying to work. A Lenora Sellers back into the game. I think their leading rusher had 13 yards that game, something like that. And it's Lenoris is really their whole run game. So having to work him back in really made them one-dimensional. Part of that because Mizzou was very good against the run. But I think that with Alabama, I think they'll be able to do what they want to do. They've played tougher competition. They've played in a rowdier environment in Georgia. They're not going to walk in seeing anything different than what they've already kind of been able to conquer in these last few weeks whenever they walk into Columbia. And I think that's going to be the difference in the game. I will say, more confident that I'm confident Bama gets the win. Cover, maybe not, but I'm taking the over. It's 52.5 right now.
Yes.
What are we doing? Like 52.5? I feel like this game has 34-31, 38-31 written all over it.
I definitely see the potential for being a high amount of chunk or explosive plays in this game with the two offenses. And I love that Ty Simpson's getting the love that he did because that's not a guy you really heard about coming into the season like you did some of the other quarterbacks, obviously. And I was kind of thinking in the background, I was like, I don't know if that's great for Bama because even out of a Bama camp, you're not really hearing a lot of buzz around the name Ty Simpson. But obviously, I agree with all of you guys. He's playing some really dang good football, probably as good as any other quarterback in the country is playing. I'm still pretty high on the guy just north on I-35 in Waco. Sawyer Robinson is my Heisman favorite. But, he doesn't rock the same brand that Mr. Simpson does. And unfortunately, it matters these days. We have plenty more.
It's tougher to have moments. Tougher to have Heisman moments in the Big 12 these days.
Yeah, when you're buried and nobody's watching and they're like, oh, anybody can score on that defense. Definitely understood that. We have plenty more to break down in the SEC for Week 7. It's going to be a blast. Such a fun weekend. But first, we're going to hear another word from our sponsor, Luxe Kitchen and Bath.
Are you ready to love your kitchen and bathroom again? Luxe Kitchen and Bath will bring that to life. Luxe has been offering high-end kitchen and bathroom remodels for 3 generations throughout the greater Austin area. With 5-star review after 5-star review on Google and Facebook and an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, you can put your faith in Luxe Kitchen and Bath's award-winning designers and skilled craftspeople to bring your dream vision to life. But that's not all. Luxe's all-star team also provides full home remodels, large additions, and even commercial build-outs as well. So call Luxe Kitchen and Bath at 833-358-LUXE today, or visit luxekitchenbath.com to discover where quality meets luxury and begin the process of transforming your home. Get your free quote today by calling 833-358-LUXE. That's LUXE, or by visiting luxekitchenbath.com. Contact info is in the description.
One last thing on Bama Mizzou. I have whoever gets off to the better start wins this game. I do have Missouri winning, but I think that Missouri jumps out on Bama early. I think Bama coming off Georgia, coming off Vanderbilt. Again, I said this to Eli off air. It's crazy to look at Vanderbilt and see how physical they are. Mm-hmm. And Missouri coming off of a bye week. Obviously, they haven't had a Georgia a couple of weeks ago. I just think early, and I could be wrong, but I think Missouri jumps out on Bama, hangs on for dear life. But if it's even after 30 minutes of play, I like Alabama's chances a lot because I really do like. I mean, Ty Simpson's play could be the difference. But agreed that this is definitely the biggest test for this very fun Missouri offense. All right, John, you got a fun game. When the line came out, and I got a little bit nervous for the Georgia Bulldogs. 3.5-point favorites at Jordan-Hare. Auburn struggling, obviously. Jackson Arnold in that offensive line in particular. We've seen the sack totals. I've personally seen Georgia sack my own quarterback a few times in my days. But how are you feeling? Again, this is an Auburn defense that I think it may be a little bit underrated overall. But when you have an offense like that, hard to handicap this one.
Yeah, it's really hard because of a couple things. One, Georgia and Auburn, they're kind of set up this year to work. They're both. This game is set up to play to both teams' strengths, right? So Auburn wants to stop the run. They have a really good run defense. Georgia wants to run the football on the offense versus defense. On the other side, Auburn hasn't had a ton of success throwing the ball, but at the same time, you're playing a Georgia team that hasn't had a lot of success getting pressure on a quarterback. So it feels like the kind of game where it could go either way depending on how each of those things go. If Georgia can run the football in Auburn, if Georgia can get pressure on the quarterback, it could be a long day in Jordan-Hare. On the flip side, if Auburn, can give Jackson Arnold some time, and if Auburn can stop the run, then it could be a close game. I think it's going to come down to can Georgia get pressure on the quarterback? If you can't get pressure on Jackson Arnold, Georgia's defensive staff has to really we got to do some soul searching. And I don't mean that to be disrespectful. Jackson Arnold, he played at Oklahoma last year, and Oklahoma had led the country in sacks allowed. He comes to Auburn. His first trip to Oklahoma, they set a freaking record for number of sacks by the Oklahoma defense. There's a common denominator. Auburn is last in the country in sacks allowed. There clearly is, whether it's Jackson Arnold, which I do think some of it is him. I think some of it is the offensive line. But if you can't get pressure in this game as a Georgia defense, then either A, you're not trying, like literally you're playing a different kind of defensive scheme where you're just not trying to get pressure on the quarterback, or B, you need to do some soul searching. So I think that's where this game is going to come down to. I also will say Jordan-Hare, I know a lot of Auburn fans have built this up to be, it's a night game at Jordan-Hare. There is between Georgia and Auburn, there's Auburn Voodoo. I think that stadium is built on an ancient Indian burial ground or maybe, I don't know, maybe there's some dead bald eagles laying around somewhere. But they're retiring Cam Newton's number. I think the environment is going to be, pumped to an 11. But I think at the end of the day, I do think Georgia is just a more physical football team in running the football. When you look at what Texas A&M did versus Auburn, they rushed for 207 yards. And I think some of that was, Texas A&M, Auburn was playing, pretty good defense on the back end versus Marcel Reed and those receivers. But I do think Auburn is versus a team that can run the football. I think Auburn is susceptible to a team running the football on them. And I think Georgia's going to be able to run the football. I think Georgia's offensive line is going to be interesting because the injury report came out today, and Monroe Freeling, who's the starting left tackle, is listed as questionable. And Kirby Smart gave him the dreaded, we hope to have him back. Georgia fans will know what this means. If Kirby Smart ever on a Tuesday or Wednesday says, we're hopeful to have him back, or we hope to have him back, or we hope he can go, the guy's not going to play. I mean, it just never happens. When Kirby says we're hopeful, that means the guy's not going to play. So it'll be interesting to see who Georgia plays at that left tackle. I think that'll be a little wrinkle. But I just don't see Auburn's offense. Until proven otherwise, I don't see Auburn's offense. And it's crazy to think at the skill players that they have on that side of the ball with Cam Coleman and with Singleton and with Jeremiah Cobb and those guys. But I just don't see it. I don't see a way they're going to be able to be complementary and balanced enough to actually score enough points to beat Georgia. And so for that reason, I think Georgia will be able to run the football, be able to control the clock a little bit. I think it will be a little bit of a low-scoring game, maybe like a 27-17, kind of thing. But I just don't see Auburn being able to score enough to win a football game like this versus Georgia.
It's hard to buy into that offense. I mean, it is a Kirby Smart defense that has struggled a little bit, but I really think he makes a challenge to his front four. Like, hey, we don't need to send extra guys. We don't need to bring 5, 6, 7 at times. Let us play solid, sound defense, cover up this back end against a really good receiving core. You guys go make the plays because, hey, Oklahoma essentially ran a one-man pressure there to end that game with Auburn, and it worked out. Now, maybe, I don't know if y'all have an R. Mason Thomas. Was that R. Mason that did that? Okay, I don't know if y'all have an R. Mason, but y'all got a lot of guys that look like him, just not maybe playing up to the potential yet. The pass rush is a weird thing, man. It's got to come. My own school is struggling with the same thing. Two schools that have not had issues rushing the passer dating back to last year. I mean, it's shocking. Again, Auburn. It seems like you just doesn't matter the opponent. Like, the pressure will be there. Trav, you've seen Auburn with your own eyes over the last 2 years, and obviously a little familiar with Jackson Arnold. Do you think there's a chance they shock the dogs on Cam Newton night at home?
Well, I think back to last year, right? Jackson Arnold's our starting quarterback, and the most hyped environment of the year. You talk about Cam Newton night, right? Night at Jordan-Hare. Well, we had Tennessee coming to town. And it was our first SEC game, and our former head coach was coming in, and we had all this, hey, we're going to do this, that, and the other against them. Jackson Arnold was benched at halftime after turning the ball over 3 times. So he started throwing the ball backwards in response to, a crazy environment at his back. So I have very little faith in Jackson. I've not seen much improvement in Jackson. He's gone from fumbling the ball to holding onto the ball just far too long. He needs to use some of that Dude Wipe sponsorship to wipe the super glue off of his hands because it's bad. He just holds the ball forever. Even in the Auburn game, 4 of those sacks were probably just him just holding on to the ball so far. So we appreciate him helping out with our guys and running up their numbers. But even the first R. Mason, because R. Mason was obviously suspended for the first half of that game for a targeting call against Temple in the second half. Well, in the second play Jackson's got 4 seconds back there. And in the stadium, we can see R. Mason Thomas just running around the right tackle or left tackle. And we're like, is Jackson not going to get rid of the ball? And he just smokes him, right? So I think Jackson Arnold, I've got a bold prediction. Not only do I like Georgia winning the football game, I think Jackson Arnold is benched at half for Deuce Knight.
Oof. I could see
you can't continue to waste these wide receivers. You can't continue to waste these wide receivers.
And that's a great point. I mean, Auburn is, I mentioned it a second ago, but I mean, they are way too talented at the skill position to have a quarterback who cannot get them the ball. And for whatever reason, whether it's offensive line or him holding it too long or whatever, I think Hugh Freeze, especially in that environment at night, the hot seat that he's already on, yeah, that's a good call, Travis. I hadn't thought about that, but I do think that could be a very real possibility.
I love it. I really do. I was going to make the point that they'd probably be a little bit better with Peyton Thorne. And, obviously that's last year's guy. And maybe they thought all along, like, hey, we can just get Jackson through a few games. We can break out the super recruit, because there's a lot of hype around him and a lot of Tigers that want to see him on the field. Who do you got, Eli?
Yeah, I got Georgia in this one as well. This to me feels like a game where somebody has to figure something out. Either it's Auburn figures out how to get these receivers the ball, or it's Georgia figures out how to get after Jackson Arnold. And I think it's the latter. The Georgia pass rush stuff has been really weird to me, how uncharacteristically off it is. And I imagine weird to a lot of people down there in Athens too. It's something where I think for some Missouri fans, it's a little bit of a point of pride that Damon Wilson and Darius Smith are looking pretty good over here, while the Georgia pass rush isn't doing much. We'll see. I like, this could be the game where there's 7 sacks and all of a sudden it just starts to look fine, and it's kind of cathartic almost there. So to me, this feels like a game where Georgia is able to just control it by getting after the quarterback, by running the football. The only way Auburn gets this is if Georgia somehow doesn't put them away early, but I think this could be a game where it's 10-point lead at halftime, and Auburn fans are calling for the backup, and Georgia just takes it and runs with it from there.
Yeah, I will say this about the Georgia pass rush. Kirby Smart has kind of pulled his hair out a little bit the last couple of years with Georgia's run defense. And I think one of the things that he has intentionally done is he's said it over and over this year that their goal, Georgia's goal, is to run the ball and to stop the run. And they've done that. They're top 15 defense against the run again, and they weren't there the last couple of years. They had some teams that were really exposed them, and I think some of that, it was probably some of their looks and the way that they were getting pressure and doing simulated pressure and on the quarterback, that some teams, kind of took advantage of that and kind of ran the ball on them a little bit. And I think this year there's probably a little bit of that that's, by design versus by just not having success. But that being said, this is the kind of game where you just got to turn it loose. Like, again, if you can't versus Jackson Arnold, then it is very clearly 100% by design with the guys that Georgia has on that defense, because they can rush the passer, but I think they've been trying to make it a point not to give up explosive runs, and they lead the country in explosive run rate on defense. So I think they're having success there. Now you got to bring the other part of the defense along.
Let's tie it all together, man.
Yeah.
I will say it. I'd be shocked if Auburn won the football game. I mean, really, really would be. But it is crazy that Jackson Arnold has these numbers, and you have a Cam Coleman down there. I'd be chunking it up. I mean, 45, 60 yards down the field. Anytime pressures. I mean, the old gif, screw it, basically,
Yeah, Cam Coleman out there somewhere.
Cam down there somewhere, throw that man the rock. I mean, at worst, you punt the ball, you get essentially with a pick, you're punting and you're not backing up and hurting yourself with more and more sack yardage. It is crazy. It really hurts my heart to watch Auburn play football on the offensive side. It is not pretty right now, but we'll see what they figured out.
I mean, when you got a guy that's, almost 6'4" and 210, I mean, geez, at some point, I agree with you. You just gotta do it. Yeah.
Double covered? Don't care at all. They haven't been. Chris is in the comments supporting, man. That's the thing. Give them a chance. Throw the ball up. Do something. I mean, it's sad. The sack, you just absolutely crushing your team. And again, it goes both ways, or it goes hand in hand. The offensive line not great. Jackson Arnold holds onto the football way too long. All right, we got a couple more. We're not going to go crazy on Texas and Oklahoma in this one. We'll treat it like every other game as far as the length, just because there's a lot of games in the SEC, and for two, me and Travis have been talking about this game all week, and I can't wait. But Texas, Oklahoma, curious, Eli, we're starting with you, brother. Tell us your thoughts. Essentially for Texas and their playoff chances, a must-win game. I don't know, obviously not that way for Oklahoma, but I'm nervous. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm excited to watch this one. I hope the post-game stuff wraps up quick enough over here in Columbia for me to be able to catch some of this. Because, I think the desperation point for Texas is obviously there. And for Oklahoma, it's a situation where, if you're a team in the SEC, you can take some losses this year, and like everybody's going to take some losses to a degree. I don't know if you want to cash that in this early if you're looking at OU's schedule and just how vulnerable Texas is right now. So I think that'll be really interesting there. For me, I'll go back to what I said at the start of the show. The way this Texas O-line is looking and the way that Oklahoma pass rush is looking, like, to me, it's just a matter of can Sark and Texas find a way to give Arch some time? Can Texas get anything going in this game? I just wonder if this is the sort of game where, and I don't know, is this the sort of game where Texas has 3 and outs in the first half to start the game, and it just they can't get any foothold in there? But I'll keep it short there because I know y'all know more about this game and have talked about it more than I have. That's what I'm watching in this one.
All has got to be on that O-line, man. What do you got, Trev?
Yeah, it's every one of these games we talk about trenches, right? And I think that both teams can say that their defensive line they trust more against the opponent's offensive line. I think that's fair to say. One thing with Oklahoma's offensive line, they've been good in pass protection against good opponents. They had, I think, 7 combined sacks between Kent State and Temple because they were rotating a lot of guys. Like, the backup guards played the whole second half against Kent State. We had backups in against Temple, gave up stuff late. But when you look at the defensive fronts of Auburn with Kendrick Falk and then others, obviously, but you look at Michigan, Jayshon Barham comes in, was hair on fire in the second half against, when we're playing Michigan. They've got Derek Moore, who's a stud. I mean, you're looking at NFL dudes, maybe not a bunch of Colin Simmonses, but certainly NFL dudes, first-round dudes, and only gave up 2 sacks combined between those 2 games. So it looks like Oklahoma's pass protection is rising to the occasion when their number is called, and then almost playing down to their opponents, which isn't something you want to see. But I'd much rather them play well in the games that we need them to play well in order to win the game. So I think Oklahoma's defensive line has the biggest advantage in the football game across all aspects of it. I do think that they can got on some explosives. We obviously saw Cam Coleman. We definitely saw, Michigan had that 75-yard touchdown. And you're going to give up some explosive plays when you take a lot of risks. And Brent Venables wants to take a lot of risks. I think my low-key stat of the game is going to be, can Texas remain disciplined? I talked about this with Cord, I think yesterday. I think Texas lost to Ohio State because they kept extending drives with penalties. I think that touchdown drive that Ohio State punched in was aided by penalties and just dumb penalties, really. Texas is 125th in the nation in penalty yards per game. It's an undisciplined football team. If you bring that into Dallas and you're undisciplined, you're probably going to draw a couple holding calls on Oklahoma's pass rush. It's probably just going to happen. So if you start cycling in offensive line, what does that look like? Are you going to have false starts in that environment? Are you going to have holding penalties in that environment? Are you going to be in situations like that are going to put you behind the sticks? So that's, I think, what to watch is Texas and their penalty yardage going into it, because I think Oklahoma's pass pro, while an issue at other places against lesser opponents, I think they've been rising to the occasion so far.
Hard to argue, brother. John, how are you feeling about the Red River shootout?
I think this game is going to come down to one key thing that we won't know until the next couple of days, and that is Oklahoma going to practice indoors or outdoors, or like what is the practice situation for Oklahoma? Because I think that no, I'm kidding. I I think I think we're talking about we're talking a lot about Arch, we're talking a lot about Texas offensive line, all these things. I think this really could come down to, can Texas defense beat Texas defense against whoever lines up at quarterback for Oklahoma, right? If Mateer, ends up going, and if he can, hopefully, I don't wish for any injury whatsoever. Hopefully the guy can go. Hopefully he's healthy enough he can play an entire game. If he can't, can Michael Hawkins, can he actually run the Oklahoma offense at a high level against the Texas defense? Because I do think this is going to come down, in my opinion, to which offense can execute the best. On paper, based on what we've seen, it does, it feels like Oklahoma has the advantage, really, no matter who lines up at quarterback back there. But I don't know, man. That Texas defense is loaded. That Texas defense has talent. That Texas defense can absolutely, turn it on if they can put it together. And I think this game could definitely be a rock fight. Like, I think it could definitely be, an old school Red River shootout. Like, can anybody run the football? Who can make, one or two plays and win this game? And so that's what I'm going to be watching. I do think this feels like the kind of game, Travis, close your ears, that Texas just finds a way to win. Everything says that this shouldn't happen, but that talent and Steve Sarkisian, even though he hasn't been great versus ranked or versus top 10 teams, I guess, but he hasn't been great in big games. I do think this feels like the kind of game that Texas finds a way to eke out with a defensive play. Maybe Arch makes, one or two plays to win a very, very close game.
I got to say, it definitely feels like a prove-it game more for Steve Sarkisian and this coaching staff than I'd say maybe any game that they've had in their times at Texas. Mm-hmm. Both sides of the football were coached poorly last week as far as a game plan. We do not see our defense get beat on the line of scrimmage too often. Again, giving Florida credit because they actually gave the ball to Jaden Baugh, who was averaging 10.2 carries a game through their first 4 games and got 27 against Texas. And he is an NFL back. He's the best back that Texas has seen so far, and he will be the best back that Texas sees for a while. I don't think Oklahoma has a Jaden Baugh. I don't think that Oklahoma's offense is as good as Florida's. The offensive line is as good as Florida's. But again, I think that Ben Arbuckle is going to scheme up a game a lot better than maybe Bailey Napier is doing. I don't think that there would have been the issue if Ben Arbuckle was in Gainesville, Florida. Maybe it will be next year. Who knows? But I like Texas defense versus offense. I like Oklahoma's defense versus our offense. I've said this with Trav. I do think we have probably I genuinely believe this, even with a John Mateer in the game, I think Texas will have the opportunity to hit more explosives, but there's going to be more risk in there. We're going to take more sacks. We're probably going to have more negative plays. So will have more tackles for loss. Now, I need to see Texas find some creative way to run the football. I've spent hours trying to figure it out myself, like what I would do to get this run game going. But then again, Oklahoma doesn't have to work too hard with Brent Venables and creating a pass rush, and I don't think they're going to have to do so with this offensive line. It's going to be a rock fight. Long story short, I'm agreeing with y'all. Travis is right. We're undisciplined. A lot of penalties on the offensive line, pre-snap penalties, holdings. And yeah, I feel like the defensive penalties aren't, too extreme. But at the end of the day, on the offense, if we're helping out an already good, very Oklahoma defense, it could be a long, long day. I have said with Travis on a show the other night, I don't think either team reaches 20 points in this one. 3 more days, 2.5 days. Come. But all right, one more. We got 5 more minutes or so here. We'll get to Florida again, traveling to Texas A&M. Mike Elko's Aggies are pretty hot. Took care of Mississippi State there in the second half after a rough start in the first. everyone kind of saw that coming, though. Mississippi State, injuries on the offensive line, but you can't deny and say A&M doesn't look pretty dang good, a lot more explosive than a year ago, and the defense slowly coming into form. Eli, what are your take on Elko's Aggies, and do you think Florida has a chance to go in there and do the Texas two-step, upset another Texas team?
Yeah, to me, I think that second half that the A&M had against Mississippi State was big. I was watching that first half and just thinking, oh, this is not the A&M team that people were touting as potentially getting over the hump and actually being the top of this conference. But then you see Marcel Reed and this defense figure it out, and it just starts to look very, very different there in the second half. So to me, it's A&M's game to lose here. I think Florida, you never know what you're going to get, but I'm not too bullish on what we saw last weekend in the Swamp, being able to travel to Kyle Field. I think that's a difficult environment for that same thing to be able to continue.
I'll say I think Kyle Field is a great environment, but when you look at their record in big games in their history at home, it is not an intimidating environment. Obviously, the video went viral of Kirk Herbstreit and Chris Fowler drinking out of red Solo cups in the back of an SUV, saying it's a great environment. Sure, not an intimidating environment, not one that affects the win totals. So, I'm not bullish on Florida by any stretch of the imagination, but I do think they get this win simply because I think that they found something in the run game, at least just choosing to have one, I guess, is what they found. But handing the ball to their bell cow. I think they've got some confidence now. And honestly, I like Marcel Reed, but he puts the ball in danger a lot. And he's a bit of a wide receiver speed merchant, it feels like at times, where you've got Mario Craver, right? You've got Terry Bussey. Casey Concepcion's fantastic. But you get these guys and, hit them on a little slant, and then they take it, and it's like, oh, my gosh, Marcel Reed, another 400-yard game with 380 yards after catch. It just feels like that's going to catch up to them a little bit. And Texas A&M, their deal with the devil, they're going to go 8-4 like always. So they're going to have to start losing if they're going to get that 8-4 because they have been on fire. So not wildly confident in Florida, but I really feel like it's about to turn midnight on Marcel Reed and the Aggies.
How about you, John?
Yeah, I think I have to agree with Travis to a certain extent. I think that Florida, I think their defense is starting to put some stuff together. I think that they do have enough talent in that run game. And I think at some point, DJ Lagway finds his way back to some of the play that we saw last year. I don't think they're going to put it all together this week. Again, I think that Texas A&M is going to pull out a close one, but I think Florida is. I think we're going to look back and see that it makes sense why Florida beat Texas by the time this game is over.
I mean, I don't want to believe in A&M, but it's good. I mean, they're playing with a lot of dang confidence. Elko's really well coached up. Marcel Reed looks really, really comfortable in the pocket, and they create a pocket. I watch A&M, and I'm like, wow, that looks cool. Their quarterback has time in the pocket. He can step up. He can deliver. And I'm hoping that we can also be, in that same world at some point this season. But I have to say A&M looks really, really good. I do think Florida is going to hang around in that game. I think we see a 4-quarter fight. I think that they take Jaden Baugh again and try to hammer him as much as they can, while mixing in some play action. We'll see if DJ has a couple of silly. Did y'all see the throw that he made under the arm of? I'm like, DJ, you didn't do anything like that the first month of the season, but now, I get it. And it was a big 3rd and 8, and maybe the coverage could have been a little tighter, but a hell of a throw through a pretty crazy window. So you got to give credit where it's due. I'll take A&M to win this game. I think it'll be 3-4 point game. I think it comes down to the wire. Would love to be wrong. Would love to see Florida go in there and knock off A&M, because A&M's tough stretch of their season is coming. They're about to go through, in my opinion, the 4-game stretch that will kind of define their season. They've had 2 games in a row at Kyle Field. They get another one. I'm not taking any more scheduled jabs or trash talk from the Aggies. I'll just say that. Hey, our schedule looks tough right now.
Hey, it looks tough.
Right,
I don't. Hey, of all the people, I get to play the schedule card out of all of us on this panel. So
Fair,
yeah,
fair.
Eli, you better turn the camera off.
Yeah, we just need to beat who we play. We'll worry about that next. Other teams will be in Florida. I'm really am defenseless in this moment there. But Eli, I hope you enjoyed our crew, man. We'd love to have you back on here talking some Mizzou and SEC football down the line. Travis, as always, man, thank you so much. Brother John,
Great time.
On. Just a couple months, or not a couple months, a month, John. Finally, you and I, person to person. This whole Cord and John connection comes.
I'm gonna open the invite. Come down to Athens. We have a live broadcast we're going to be doing from Creature Comforts Brewery on Friday night with some former Georgia players. I would make a space for a Longhorn on the show. Come on down.
You're the man, brother. Gonna be fun. Everybody enjoy your SEC Field College football weekends. Inside Texas will be back tomorrow and then all day Sunday. So if you haven't liked this video or haven't gone over to the channel and subscribed yet, please do that. And for the meantime, though, have a good night, all right?